One of the things that we keep seeing a lot over the past few years is that movies come out that are considered these big tentpoles from big studios. They don't do all that well at the box office, but if you look at the mainstream media and the Access legacy media shills, they're all talking about it as though it's the biggest success ever. And over the past day or two, I've been seeing a lot of articles about Predator Badlands presenting it as some big box office win, when in reality, it's not really as impressive as a lot of these kind of industry trades are suggesting. Now, those of you that are already familiar with my channel know that I was one of the first to declare Superman a box office flop months before the mainstream media did, and I have a similar feeling about this movie that I did about that movie, which is why I'm even making this video. Today I'm going to show you a more detailed analysis as to why I think the movie is actually underperforming, and in addition, I'm going to show you a comparison between this new Predator movie versus previous installments so we can get a better perspective. And if you enjoy getting this type of information from a more independent news source like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really help my channel.
Do it.
Now, when it comes to Predator Badlands, if you looked at the box office that it did this weekend, it opened with something like a $39 million international and a $40 million domestic, which is something like $79 million total. And since yesterday was a Monday, it's already gone up to something like 82 worldwide. And certainly when you look at these kind of industry trades, you see articles like Variety saying that this is the best franchise record debut for the Predator. We have Rotten Tomatoes saying almost the same thing. Polygon declares it a hit and a box office record for the franchise. Based on how similar these articles are and how they're hitting the same talking points, I really feel that there's probably a good chance that Disney themselves, through their own PR representatives, reached out to a lot of these key publications with some type of press release and told them the exact beats they need to hit in the articles. And of course, all of these guys are running with that story due to their relationships likely. I mean, it's no secret that Disney has a lot of influence in the media, and I think it's really important to them, especially with an upcoming earnings call where they have to talk to shareholders and investors, and they want to present a really positive picture. Having this movie declared a flop at this very moment in time would be very inconvenient for Disney. And if you ask me, there is a good chance that in order to get some positive buzz around it, Disney are able to offer certain reporters that they have a rapport with future exclusive interviews, invites for future events. That's kind of how these things work. And that's also why you're seeing so many people shilling for this movie so hard. These articles also seem to be dropping Dan Trachtenberg's name, building him up as some kind of savior talent that Disney has on payroll there. What nobody's saying in these articles is that the last two movies that he made were not even released theatrically. They were direct to streaming. And I know some people will say, well, what are you complaining about? This is a pretty decent worldwide opening. But if you really look at things closely, there are some problems here. And what I want to do right now is I want to look at a table that shows all the different Predator movies that have been released until now from 1987. I want to look at the money that was invested in them, what kind of money they made at the box office, while also looking at the numbers adjusted for inflation. And I think that if we look at that, we'll have a better idea of just how well Predator Badlands is performing or not performing. So technically speaking, if we're just looking at the bottom line worldwide box office to date adjusted for inflation, I would say that the first Alien vs. Predator movie probably made the most amount of money. In second place, you have the movie Predator from 1987. Adjusted for inflation, it's $284 million. Alien vs. Predator Requiem, $211 million. The Predator, $198 million. Predators, $182 million. Predator 2 with $146 million, and Predator Badlands currently in the last place. Now, I know it's just been released, so it will likely not end up in the last place, but now let's look at just how much money was invested in every one of these movies, and which one of these movies was genuinely considered profitable. See, if you look at the top one, which is Alien vs. Predator, it did seem to make a lot of money, but if you look at the amount invested in the movie, you can tell that while they didn't lose money on it, it pretty much just broke even in the theater. And ultimately, when Predator Badlands' run is done, I think that AVP is probably going to outperform it in terms of not losing money. But when it comes to really making money, I think that the first movie from 1987 with Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually the most successful to date. Because if you think about it, it was a new franchise, it was rated R, Nobody knew what it was. It was sort of a hybrid of different genres, so they didn't quite know how to market it. They invested $18 million in it, and they made back over 5 times their production budget, which is 100% undeniably a hit. Very much leaning on the popularity of Arnold Schwarzenegger to get people in the theater. And it worked. So until this day, that movie is the biggest win of the franchise. And if you want to know what other movies were actually profitable, we're looking at movies like Alien vs. Predator Requiem and Predators, both which had clever budgeting, because both were made for $40 million, but then in the box office made over 3 times their budgets. So really, if we're thinking about the top 3 successful movies in the franchise, we're looking at Predator from 1987, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, and Predators. But if you look at Badlands, they invested $105 million of today's money, but in order for this movie to be profitable, you need at minimum to make 2.5 times that number. Which means that if this movie has a worldwide box office run of less than $262.5 million, it would be considered technically a box office flop. And there's another catch here. Over the past several years, time and time again, Disney has reported one budget for a movie, and then later, maybe a year or two later, documents surface, and it turns out that they actually spent way more on the movie. So really hard to take their word for it. That's why often these days, I usually take the production budget and multiply it times 3 or 3.5 just to break even, because these studios aren't really telling us the truth. But I'm going to be more moderate this time, and let's just say that it's the numbers they claim, and you need $262 million to break even. But if you think about it, this opening weekend, that's where they needed to make their big score. Is this a big enough score? If every week now, the attendance will drop by, let's say, 50%, it's going to have a very tough time even making back its budget. Is it impossible? I guess not. But from what I'm seeing now, this is far from the big box office win that we're being told here. Now, if I looked at the model right now and tried to estimate what this box office will look like for Predator Badlands by the end of this run, I would say that it's something along the lines of $175 million to $225 million. Not the worst box office flop in the world, but still probably considered a box office flop. It would take a real anomaly and very, very strong word of mouth for this movie to somehow get to $262 million, and even that is probably less than it needs to break even, but we're just sort of humoring Disney with this. Now, once in a while, strange things happen in cinema, and suddenly there's a movie that has incredible legs. Obviously, if I'm wrong on this, I will make another video and I'll tell you that I was wrong. But right now, when I look at the numbers, I can't imagine a situation where this movie is a big hit. Maybe if some kind of miracle happens, it somehow breaks even. And even that would probably be a stretch. So I guess what I'm saying is that this is not a huge win. And sometimes you gotta read these kind of industry trades and look at them with a grain of salt, because there's all these politics going on, and these days, it's worse than it's ever been. It used to be that a movie comes out, it does well, everybody understands it did well. It does poorly, everybody understands that it was a stinker. Now there's all this kind of spin and narratives to try to give different perspectives on if it's a failure or a win, blaming people for not showing up, accusing people for being terrible people if they don't like it. We've seen it all. But here on this channel, I always try to give the most honest analysis that I can, and based on the information that I have now, this is my analysis. And if you enjoy getting these type of reports and staying updated from a more independent entertainment news reporter like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you always get notified when there's new developments. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. But